My stepfather trapped me in the attic after my mom's funeral to take the house, but I reached my mother's lawyer. And that call destroyed him. After my mother's funeral, my stepfather and uncle trapped me in the attic. Sign the house over or rot up here, they said. For 3 days, I endured the heat and hunger. Then I found an old phone charger and made one call they'd forgotten about. The attic door slammed shut. The lock clicked, then another, then a third. Heavy deadbolts I didn't even know were there. Metal sliding into place with the finality of a coffin closing. Sign the house over or rot up here, my stepfather Carl said through the thick wood. His voice was calm, matter of fact, like he was discussing dinner plans. We've got all the time in the world, Uncle Rick added, his laugh sharp and cruel. You don't. Their footsteps retreated down the stairs, heavy boots on hardwood, fading into silence. Mom had been buried 6 hours ago. The funeral had barely ended before they made their move. I stood there in the suffocating heat, still wearing my black funeral dress, and tried to process what had just happened. The attic pressed in around me. July in Sacramento. No windows, just one bare bulb hanging from a wire casting weak yellow light across the exposed beams and dust. I pounded on the door. Let me out, Carl. Uncle Rick. Nothing. Just silence and heat and the horrible realization that no one was coming. I'd lived in this house my entire life. 24 years in the 3-bedroom craftsman on Maple Street that Mom had inherited from her parents. Every memory I had was built between these walls. First steps, birthdays, high school graduation. Coming home from college to find Mom sick. So sick, the pancreatic cancer that would take her in 8 months. Carl had appeared during month 3 of Mom's diagnosis. Widower, she'd said, lost his wife to breast cancer. Understood what we were going through. He was attentive, helpful, present, everything Mom needed while I was trying to work full-time and be her caretaker and not fall apart. They got married at City Hall during month 6. Quick ceremony, just me and Uncle Rick as witnesses. Mom said she didn't want to die alone. Said Carl made her feel safe. I'd trusted him because Mom did. Uncle Rick, Mom's younger brother, had always been the family disappointment. 3 failed businesses, 2 divorces, a talent for showing up whenever someone had money and disappearing the moment you needed help. He'd been absent for most of Mom's illness, appearing only at the end when he smelled opportunity. Mom's will was crystal clear. I'd been there when she'd drafted it with her attorney, Janet Cordova, at the law offices downtown. The house went to me. Her savings, what little remained after medical bills, went to me. Carl got nothing. He'd been her husband for exactly 4 months when she died. I love him, Mom had said weakly from her hospital bed, explaining her decision. But this house is your history, your future. I need to know you'll always have a home. Carl had smiled and said he understood completely. He'd lied. My phone was dead. They'd taken my charger when they'd herded me up to the attic. Carl gripping my arm. Uncle Rick blocking my escape. Both of them stone-faced and silent until the door locked behind me. The property deed sat on the floor where they'd thrown it. A single sheet of paper. Transfer of ownership. My name in one blank, a signature line below it. A blue pen beside it rolled against the baseboard like an accusation. Just sign it, Maya, Carl had said before locking me in. His voice gentle, almost paternal. Your mother would want this. She'd want family to have the house. Liar. Manipulative liar. Mom's will couldn't have been clearer. Janet Cordova had explained it to me after the reading the day before. Carl had no legal claim. The house was mine, free and clear, paid off decades ago by my grandparents. But they didn't care about legality. They cared about forcing my hand before the will went through probate. If I signed now, under duress, would it even count? Probably not. But they were gambling on desperation, on heat exhaustion, on fear. I looked around the attic, boxes everywhere, Christmas decorations, old photo albums, my childhood toys packed away in plastic tubs. Mom's overflow storage from when she downsized her life, preparing for the end. The heat was unbearable. Even at 8 in the evening, with the sun finally setting, the temperature up here had to be 95 degrees, maybe higher. The single bulb offered no ventilation, no relief. The first day was rage. I screamed until my throat was raw. Kicked the door until my feet bruised. Threw boxes at the walls, hearing things shatter inside. Christmas ornaments probably, or picture frames. Things that mattered once and meant nothing now. The house below was empty. I could tell from the silence. They'd sent everyone home after the funeral. Mom's friends from church. My coworkers who'd come to pay respects. The neighbors who'd brought casseroles and condolences. Maya needs space to grieve, I'd heard Carl tell them. His voice carrying up the stairs before they trapped me. She wants to be alone with her mother's things, process everything. Nobody questioned it. Grief was private. Grief was sacred. Nobody would come looking. I tried the door again and again, throwing my weight against it, but those 3 deadbolts held firm. The door itself was solid oak, original to the house, built in 1947 when they made things to last. My phone stayed dead in my hand. 3% battery when they'd taken my charger. Now a black mirror reflecting my own desperate face. I tried to think, tried to plan, but the heat was already making everything fuzzy, harder to focus. I found water around midnight. Thank God. Mom had stored cases of bottled water up here, probably for emergencies, earthquakes, the disaster preparedness she'd learned from her parents who'd lived through the Depression. Plastic bottles stacked against the far wall, covered in dust, but sealed. I drank an entire bottle in 30 seconds. Warm, plastic tasting, life-saving. The second day, the heat became unbearable. I woke up soaked in sweat. My funeral dress clinging to my skin like a second layer. The black fabric absorbed every degree, turning me into a human oven. I stripped down to my bra and underwear. The funeral dress went in a heap in the corner. Modesty meant nothing when you were dying. Around what I guessed was noon, judging from the worst of the heat, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Carl's voice. Maya, you ready to be reasonable? I crawled to the door. My legs were weak already. Let me out. Sign the deed. No. Something slid under the door. A granola bar. Nature Valley, crunchy oat. The kind that exploded into 1,000 crumbs when you opened it. That's lunch, Carl said. Dinner, too, if you don't cooperate. I'm not signing anything. Your choice. His footsteps retreated. Stopped. You know, your mother really loved this house. It would be a shame if something happened to it. If someone, say, forgot to pay the property taxes. Let it fall into disrepair. Condemned. It's not yours to destroy. Not yet, he said, but it will be one way or another. I ate the granola bar. Hated myself for it. Hated that I needed it. But I was already getting weak. The heat was pulling moisture from my body faster than I could replace it. My lips were cracked, my head pounded, everything shimmered in the heat like the attic was underwater. I tried the door again, pounded on it, screamed. Nothing, just silence and the sound of my own ragged breathing. By the third day, I was barely conscious. I'd wake up in pools of sweat, drink water, pass out again. The cycle repeated endlessly. Time lost meaning. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like days. I lay on the floor in just my underwear and tried to think clearly through the heat haze. How long could they keep me here? Days? Weeks? How long before someone noticed I was missing? My job at the marketing firm would wonder where I was by Monday. That was still 2 days away. HR would call. Eventually, my best friend Jenna was on vacation in Hawaii, not back until next week. My aunt, Mom's sister, was in Oregon. She'd promised to check in soon, which meant never. Nobody was coming. Then I noticed something. An old desk in the corner. Mom's desk from when she'd used this attic as a home office back in the 90s. White painted wood, 3 drawers buried under boxes. As I'd been too exhausted to explore, I crawled over. The movement made my head spin, made black spots dance in my vision. I pulled open the drawers one by one. Office supplies, dusty pens, yellow legal pads, photographs from decades ago. Mom young and laughing, holding me as a baby. The second drawer held files, old tax returns, medical records. The third drawer stuck. I yanked harder. It jerked open. Inside, a tangle of cables, old computer cords, USB cables, adapters, and a phone charger. Ancient white plastic yellowed with age, but the same model as mine. The rectangular charging block, the lightning cable. My hand shook as I picked it up. Please work. Please, please, please. I crawled to the outlet near the desk. The same circuit as the overhead bulb. I plugged in the charger with trembling fingers. The outlet worked. Green light on the charging block. I connected my phone. The screen stayed black for 30 agonizing seconds. Then the Apple logo appeared. White on black. The most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. The phone powered on. 2% battery. Then 3. 4. I had one chance, maybe 2 calls before they heard me. Before they came upstairs and took the phone, took my last hope. Who could I trust? Not the police. Carl was buddies with half the Sacramento Police Department. Golf every Sunday at Hagen Oaks. His face all over Facebook in group photos with cops and judges. Not my aunt. She'd sided with Uncle Rick immediately after the funeral. Not my coworkers. Nobody would believe this story. Then I remembered Mom's lawyer, Janet Cordova, the woman who'd drafted Mom's will, who'd sat with us in that sterile office and listened to Mom's wishes, who looked me in the eye and said, "I'll make sure your mother's intentions are honored." I found her business card in my phone contacts. Janet Cordova, attorney at law, estate planning, and probate. My battery hit 5%. I called. 1 ring, 2. This is Janet Cordova. Janet, it's Maya Chen. My voice came out as a whisper, hoarse from screaming, raw from dehydration. I need help. Maya. Her voice shifted immediately, concern replacing professional neutrality. Are you all right? Where are you? I tried calling yesterday about the probate paperwork. Carl locked me in the attic. The words tumbled out fast, desperate. My stepfather and my uncle. 3 days ago, right after the funeral. They won't let me out until I sign over my mother's house. Silence. Long enough that I thought the call had dropped. Janet, are you serious? Her voice was steel now. Maya, are you telling me they've held you prisoner for 3 days? Yes. No food except 1 granola bar. Water I found up here. They have 3 deadbolts on the door. My phone was dead. I just found a charger. Stay on the line. I heard rustling movement. Her voice moving away from the phone. I'm calling law enforcement right now. Don't hang up. My battery hit 6% then dropped to 5. The charging was slow. The ancient cable struggling. Janet, Carl's friends with the local cops. Half the department. They play golf together. I won't let them handle that. Her voice was back, firm and commanding. Keep this line open. I'm calling the California State Police. They have jurisdiction. Carl's buddies can't help him with state troopers. I heard her typing rapidly, making another call on what must have been a second phone. 4% battery. The red warning appeared. Downstairs, voices. Carl and Rick arguing about something. TV news playing. The sounds of normal life while I rotted in the attic. 3%. Maya. Officers are en route from the state police barracks in West Sacramento. 20 minutes. Can you hang on? I don't have 20 minutes of battery. My voice cracked. Janet. You're going to be fine. Stay quiet. Don't let them know you made this call. 2%. I heard cars outside. Multiple vehicles. The sound distinct even through the attic. Engines shutting off, doors slamming, heavy footsteps on the front walk. 1% pounding on the front door. Aggressive, official. State police. Open this door immediately. Carl's voice rose in sudden panic. What? What's this about? There's been some mistake. We have a report of unlawful imprisonment and kidnapping. Open this door now or we're breaking it down. My phone died. The screen went black. The last 1% disappearing like smoke. But I could hear everything. The front door crashing open. Wood splintering. Shouts. Carl protesting. Rick swearing, voices overlapping in chaos. Where is she? A woman's voice commanding, brooking no argument. Where's Maya Chen? I don't know what you're talking about. Dispatch said the attic. Check every floor now. Footsteps thundered through the house. Multiple people. Heavy boots on the stairs. My stairs. The ones I'd climbed my whole life. The second floor. Then up again. The attic stairs. Closer. The locks turned. 1 deadbolt. 2. 3. The door swung open. 2 officers stood there silhouetted against the hallway light. A woman in her 40s wearing the distinctive navy and gold of California State Police. A younger man behind her, hand on his weapon, eyes scanning for threats. Maya Chen? I nodded. Couldn't speak. Too weak. Too grateful. Too overwhelmed. You're safe now. Let's get you out of here. They helped me stand. My legs barely worked after 3 days of heat and dehydration. The female officer wrapped a blanket around my shoulders despite the heat. The male officer took my arm, supporting my weight as we descended the stairs. Carl and Rick were in handcuffs in the living room. Carl's face was red, sweating, his golf shirt rumpled. This is a misunderstanding. A complete misunderstanding. She's confused. Grief does terrible things to people. Save it for your lawyer. The female officer, her name tag said Sergeant Patricia Morales, cut him off with a gesture. We've got the 911 call recorded. We've got witness statements and we've got physical evidence of 3 deadbolts on an attic door. Janet Cordova stood in the doorway, briefcase in hand, looking fierce and professional in a gray suit despite it being nearly 10 at night. Maya is the sole heir to this property per the last will and testament of Linda Chen, Janet said, her voice carrying the weight of legal authority. These men have no claim to this house. What they've done constitutes kidnapping under California Penal Code Section 207. And since they held her for ransom, demanding she sign over property, that elevates this to aggravated kidnapping under Section 209. Carl's face went white. Ransom? That's insane. She's family. You locked your stepdaughter in an attic without food, water, or climate control for 72 hours, Janet continued coldly. You denied her access to telecommunications. You attempted to coerce her into signing legal documents under duress. Those are the facts. Rick slumped in his handcuffs. The bravado gone. Carl, you said this would work. You said she'd cave. Shut up, Carl hissed. Both of you quiet. Sergeant Morales gestured to two other officers. Get them out of here. Take them to county lockup. Book them on kidnapping, false imprisonment, attempted theft by coercion, and conspiracy. They started pushing Carl and Rick toward the door. Carl looked back at me, his face contorted with rage and fear and something that might have been regret. You're making a mistake, he said. I loved your mother. I would never. You locked me in an attic the day we buried her, I said quietly. My voice was hoarse but steady. Whatever you felt for Mom died the second you put those deadbolts on. They dragged him outside. Through the window, I could see news vans pulling up. Local stations, their satellite dishes extended, camera crews jumping out. A reporter I recognized from the evening news was already doing a stand-up in front of the house where a young woman was allegedly held prisoner in her own home for 3 days following her mother's funeral. Sergeant Morales closed the curtains. You don't need to deal with that tonight. Let's get you to a hospital. You need fluids, medical evaluation, documentation of your condition for the criminal case, and I need your formal statement, another voice said. A man stepped forward, mid-50s, wearing a suit despite the late hour, carrying a leather folder. Detective James Wu, Major Crimes Division, his badge clipped to his belt. Miss Chen, I know you've been through hell, but the sooner we document everything, the stronger the case. I'll do whatever you need, I said. Janet touched my arm. I'm coming with you. You're the victim here, but you still need protection. The hospital was a blur of 4 fluids and questions and documentation. They photographed everything. The bruises on my arms where Carl had gripped me. The raw patches on my knees from crawling across the attic floor. The chapped lips. The sunken eyes. The physical evidence of 3 days in hell. You're severely dehydrated, Dr. Sarah Mitchell said, reviewing my chart. Blood pressure is low. Core temperature was 101.3 when you arrived. Another day in that heat, and you could have had serious organ damage. Detective Wu sat beside my hospital bed, recorder running, taking my statement while Janet listened intently. I told him everything. The ride home from the cemetery. Carl and Rick cornering me in the hallway. The march upstairs. The 3 deadbolts clicking shut. The heat. The water bottles. Finding the charger. Calling Janet. Did they explicitly state why they were holding you? Detective Wu asked. They wanted me to sign over the house. The property deed was on the floor with a pen. Carl kept saying Mom would want him to have it. But your mother's will specifies you as sole heir. Yes, Janet has the documentation. Janet pulled papers from her briefcase. The last will and testament of Linda Marie Chen witnessed by myself and my paralegal David Torres. It explicitly bequeathed the property at 847 Maple Street to Maya Louise Chen with no provisions for Carl Henderson or Richard Chen. Detective Wu made notes. And Carl Henderson married your mother when? 4 months before she died. They got married while she was terminally ill. So he married your mother while she was dying and attempted to coerce you into signing over her property within hours of her funeral. Yes. His expression hardened. That's going to play very poorly in court. They arrested Uncle Rick later that night when he tried to run. Made it 3 blocks before state police tackled him outside a 7-Eleven. The media coverage exploded. By morning, my story was everywhere. Local news, state news, national coverage. I stayed in the hospital for a day and a half while they monitored my kidney function and pumped me full of fluids. Janet visited with updates. The DA is taking this very seriously. Assistant District Attorney Marcus Rodriguez is personally handling the prosecution. He specializes in exploitation cases. How long could they get? Janet's expression went grim. Kidnapping for ransom in California carries a possible life sentence under Penal Code 209. With the aggravating factors, your mother just died, Carl was in a position of family trust, the extreme conditions, they're looking at 25 years minimum. The trial took 3 weeks. I testified. Dr. Mitchell testified about my near-fatal dehydration. Janet testified about Mom's will. Detective Wu testified about the crime scene and the 3 deadbolts. The defense tried to claim I'd voluntarily stayed in the attic to grieve. The jury didn't buy it. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing happened 3 weeks later. Judge Thomas Rivera was unforgiving. Mr. Henderson, you married a dying woman and then attempted to steal her daughter's inheritance within hours of the funeral. You held that daughter prisoner under conditions that could have killed her. He looked down at his paperwork. I'm sentencing you to 28 years in California State Prison. No possibility of parole for 20 years. Carl's shoulders shook. Mr. Chen. The judge turned to Rick. You enabled this crime. You helped imprison your niece. 25 years in state prison. No parole for 18 years. They took them away. I watched them walk through the courtroom doors. Two men who'd seen me as an obstacle to money, who'd been willing to let me die for a house. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Cameras, microphones, questions shouted over each other. Janet stood beside me, one hand on my shoulder. Maya has a statement. I looked at the cameras, at the reporters, at the crowd that had gathered. My mother left me her house because she wanted me to always have a home, I said, my voice steady despite everything. Two men tried to take that from me by locking me in an attic to die. They failed and now they'll spend the rest of their lives in prison. I paused. Let it sink in. Grief makes you vulnerable. There are people who will exploit that, who will see your pain as opportunity. Don't let them. Trust your instincts. Protect yourself and never sign anything under duress. The reporters erupted with more questions, but Janet was already guiding me away toward her car, toward freedom. I looked back once at the courthouse, at the building where justice had finally been served. Mom had left me a phone charger in that attic desk years ago, never knowing it would save my life. She'd left me a will that protected my inheritance. She'd left me a lawyer who believed me. And she'd left me the strength to survive 3 days in hell and come out fighting. Carl had wanted to see me break. Wanted to watch me sign away everything Mom had given me. Instead, he got to watch me walk free while he got loaded into a prison van. Sometimes the best revenge is just surviving long enough to make them pay.